For hundreds of years, the great Galactic Council had gathered beneath the vast dome of the Hall of Stars, a place where light from every sun in the known galaxy shimmered in the crystal ceiling. Representatives from thousands of worlds came, spoke, argued, traded, and signed treaties. They planned wars and they made peace. They talked of new discoveries and new threats. But in all those long centuries, there was always one empty seat. It was the seat marked with the symbol of Earth. And it had never been filled. At first no one had cared much. In the early days, many thought Earth was still a small world, struggling with its own survival, too busy to join the wider galaxy. Some said humans were too primitive. Others laughed and claimed humans might not even know the Council existed. But as time passed, those excuses began to feel thin. Centuries went by, and still no human face appeared. No message arrived. No ship from Earth came into the Great Hall. The absence began to bother the other worlds. Ambassadors whispered in quiet. "Corners, why do they ignore us? Do they think they are above the Council?" Even the oldest and most patient races found it strange. Many species had once been cautious or shy, but eventually they all sent someone. All except Earth. Rumors grew wild. Some claimed humans had destroyed themselves in war. Others said their world had been taken by disease. A few told darker tales, that humans were out there, watching, waiting, choosing their moment. Once or twice, the Council had suggested sending a small fleet to check. But something always stopped the plan. An uneasy feeling hung in the air whenever Earth's name came up. Those who had fought humans long ago in forgotten border wars remembered the strange way humans fought. They remembered how even in defeat, humans had made them bleed. They remembered the cold eyes of human soldiers. Still, the galaxy moved on. Empires rose and fell. New species were welcomed. Old enemies became allies. The Council chamber grew louder every year. More trade, more politics, more endless talk. And still that seat with Earth's mark sat empty, dust gathering on the flag then. One quiet rotation, everything changed. The day began like any other. Representatives gathered. Small quarrels filled the room. An argument over mining rights on a distant moon. A debate about new laws for warp routes outside the Hall of Stars. The galaxy went about its usual business. Traders sold goods, fleets patrolled. Colonists built homes on far planets. And then the feeds lit up. At first just one or two channels. Then all of them, every holoscreen, every communicator, every news broadcast. The same image burned into the galaxy's eyes. Space around Earth was glowing. The black void shimmered as if torn open. Then, one by one, massive shapes emerged. Long and sleek, dark as midnight. Their hulls reflecting the sunlight in cold flashes. 1,000 warships, perfectly aligned, sliding into orbit around Earth like silent predators. The galaxy froze. The Council's noise died in an instant. The Hall of Stars became silent enough to hear the faint hum of the translator systems. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone simply stared at the feed. The ships were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. No exposed engines, no markings, no visible weapons, and yet every instinct screamed that they were dangerous. In the outer colonies, people stopped working to watch. In the Grand Capital's leaders left meetings to stand before giant screens. Traders halted mid-deal. Soldiers paused mid-drill. Across every world the same thought spread. Earth had returned. But how and why now? The news channels scrambled to guess. Some analysts insisted these must be ceremonial ships. A show of power but nothing more. Others said the designs were impossible, far beyond anything the Council's engineers could build. Still others whispered about ancient prophecies, claiming humans had vanished to prepare for some great event. In the Hall of Stars, the Council leader, a tall silver-skinned being from the Viral Dominion, finally spoke, his voice echoing under the crystal dome. Send a message, demand they explain themselves. But even he sounded uneasy. A few of the younger ambassadors muttered that it might be a bluff, that perhaps the ships were empty, but Deep down, no one truly believed that the image of those 1,000 dark hulls was burned into every mind. On the edge of the council floor, the representative from the Drekan clans whispered to his aide, "I fought them once, long ago, when I was young." His scaled hands shook slightly. "If these are the ships they build now, then we should all be afraid." No human voice spoke, no signal came. The ships simply hung there in perfect silence, black shadows against the blue curve of Earth, the kind of silence that felt heavy, like a warning. Out in the rim worlds, pirate fleets began quietly moving away from human space. Smugglers altered their routes. Even the most reckless captains avoided Earth systems. The news spread faster than any official broadcast, carried in whispers and rumors. Earth is armed. Earth is ready. Earth is watching. In the council chamber, the unease turned to something else, not just fear but curiosity. The absence of humans for so long had left a hole in the galaxy's understanding. Now they had returned, not with words, but with power, and power demanded attention. Every representative knew, in that moment, that the galaxy's balance had shifted. The seat marked with Earth's flag was no longer a quiet, dusty corner of the hall. It was the center of every gaze, and somewhere deep inside, even the most arrogant rulers felt a flicker of dread. Because a species that could hide for centuries and then arrive with 1,000 warships was not a species to be underestimated. And yet, no one could guess that this was only the beginning. The image of 1,000 warships in perfect orbit around Earth did not fade from the galaxy's mind. If anything, it grew sharper, more haunting. As every hour passed, the feeds replayed. The moment the void shimmered and the ships emerged over and over again, in every city, on every world. In every lonely outpost, beings watched in silence. In the Hall of Stars, the quiet did not last. Panic had a way of creeping in. It began as a ripple of voices. Small questions between ambassadors. Who gave them clearance to bring a fleet here? Why were we not informed? Then the questions became shouts. The translators struggled to keep up with the rising chaos. Languages clashing in waves of fear. One representative from the Kithari League slammed a fist onto the council table, his pale skin flushed purple. "This is an act of war," he barked. "You do not arrive with 1,000 armed vessels unless you mean to threaten." His words were echoed by others, but not everyone agreed. The elder speaker from the Lunaran Concord leaned forward, her glass-like eyes unblinking. "Perhaps it is not a threat. Perhaps it is a message," she said softly, but in the tense chamber, even soft words felt heavy. In the outer districts of the galaxy, the reaction was no calmer. Entire star systems called emergency security meetings. Fleets were ordered to high alert. Merchants began pulling goods from human trade routes, fearing sudden blockades. Smugglers abandoned their caches near Sol. Patrol captains reported strange disappearances, ships entering human space and never reappearing. But inside the council hall, the panic took on a different tone. Fear twisted into anger, anger into suspicion. "Where have they been all these centuries?" demanded the Valtorian envoy, his voice sharp. "What have they been building? How did they do this without anyone noticing?" The Drekan clan delegate, the same one who had once fought humans, spoke slowly, his deep voice rumbling. "You do not understand. They do not build for show. Every ship you saw is armed. Every hull has purpose. Every movement is chosen." His yellow eyes narrowed. "And they never arrive unprepared." The younger species in the council did not have such memories. To them, humans were only a name in old records, an absent voice in the council. They could not understand how a world that had stayed silent for so long could reappear with more power than most empires. Some insisted the ships must be fakes. Clever projections, nothing more, to test the claim. A group of 5 member states proposed something dangerous. Send a scout fleet to approach Earth's ships. Scan them, prove whether they were real. The motion passed faster than most council laws. Fear had sharpened into challenge. The scout fleet launched within hours. Fast cruisers with top-tier sensors. the kind of ships built for stealth and quick retreats. They slipped into Sol system under cloak, their crews tense but confident, and across the galaxy, everyone waited for their report. No report came. Minutes passed, then hours, no signal, no trace. It was as if the scout fleet had been erased from existence. Their last transmissions were short, broken bursts of static. A single partial image of a black warship turning toward them before the feed cut. The council chamber erupted. Some shouted that the humans had committed an act of war. Others demanded immediate retaliation, but there were also voices quieter, older, wiser, that urged caution. They pointed out that the scout fleet had gone uninvited, that perhaps the humans had only defended their space. Then, in the middle of the chaos, something unexpected happened. Every screen in the council hall flickered, the crystal ceiling dimmed. The room's lighting shifted, and a single image appeared. The bridge of a human warship, a tall human officer stood there, his uniform black and without insignia, his eyes calm but unreadable. Behind him the bridge crew worked in silence. No sound reached the council chamber except his voice, deep and controlled. "Your scout vessels are unharmed," he said. "They will be returned when we are ready." He did not explain further. He did not apologize. His gaze swept the room, as if he could see each representative through the transmission. "We have returned to the council." He continued. "We require a seat," gasps echoed. Demands for explanation tumbled over each other, but the human's expression did not change. "We will speak once and only once," he said, and then the image vanished. The chamber lights returned. The screens went dark. The council members stared at each other, trying to process what had just happened. The Drekan delegates' words came back to many of them. They never arrive unprepared. The humans had appeared without warning, taken an entire fleet, without bloodshed, and demanded a seat as if it were already theirs. Across the galaxy, the reaction was no less intense. On outer worlds, people whispered that the humans had taken the scout crews hostage. In core worlds, analysts debated the meaning of "speak once." Some thought it meant the humans would make a single grand speech. Others feared it meant one warning before they acted. Pirate lords canceled raids. Mercenaries refused contracts. Against human interests, even criminal syndicates began to treat human space as a no-go zone. The effect was spreading without a single shot fired. And in the Hall of Stars, the council realized something far more unsettling. Earth had missed every meeting for centuries. And yet, without attending, they had just taken control of the room, all without raising their voice, all without explaining their true purpose. Somewhere far beyond the Sol system, hidden eyes watched the council's confusion, ancient minds calculating, because the return of Earth was not just a political event. It was the first movement of a much larger design, one the galaxy was not yet ready to understand. And while the council argued, the 1,000 warships around Earth waited in perfect silence, their purpose still locked behind human eyes. For most of the galaxy, Earth's sudden return was a mystery. But for Earth, it had never been sudden. It had been a plan, a long, deliberate plan written in patience and silence. While the rest of the galaxy gathered in the Hall of Stars to talk, humans had been somewhere else entirely, building, learning, preparing centuries ago, when Earth had first been invited to join the Galactic Council. The invitation had been debated in hidden rooms back on the blue planet. Scientists, generals, and leaders all sat together. They studied the history of the Council. They studied the wars, the betrayals, the shifting alliances. And they came to one conclusion: the galaxy was not ready for them. And they were not ready for the galaxy. Instead of sending diplomats, they sent scouts, quiet ships with cloaking, fields, and long-range sensors. These scouts drifted between stars, slipping past border beacons, listening to council meetings through stolen signals. Humans learned who traded with whom, who hated whom, who secretly planned wars while signing peace. Every weakness, every strength, every political fault line was mapped and recorded. Meanwhile, beneath Earth's oceans and inside mountains, In hollowed-out asteroids and hidden moons, something far greater was being built. Shipyards the size of cities grew in secret. Entire fleets took shape in darkness. Weapons no other species had ever seen were tested in void spaces between galaxies. Humans didn't just build for defense, they built for supremacy. The Council saw none of this. To them, Earth was silent, primitive perhaps, too caught up in its own affairs. But the truth was that humans were watching the galaxy as a predator watches a crowded herd. Patient, unblinking, waiting for the moment the herd forgot about the predator's existence. There were whispers in some corners of the galaxy. Small races living on the edge of Council territory told stories of strange ships appearing in the calm night sky, studying their worlds and vanishing without a sound. Some claimed they had seen humans. Others thought it was just another Empire's spies. The Council never connected the dots. Back on Earth, the silence became a kind of armor. The absence of human presence in the Council meant no one prepared for human competition. No one studied their technology. No one took them seriously. By the time the galaxy remembered Earth existed, it would be far too late to predict what humans could do. Generations were born and died under this secret, and every generation added more to the plan. Families sent their brightest into the hidden academies, learning alien languages, alien tactics, alien engineering. Humanity absorbed everything. The galaxy knew without giving anything in return. When humans began testing their first interstellar dreadnoughts, they did it far beyond any known charts, deep in the black where no sensors reached. The crews swore oaths of silence. Some never returned home, their names vanishing from Earth's records, their sacrifices buried in layers of secrecy. And all the while the galaxy talked, debated, made speeches in the Hall of Stars, traded small fleets in small wars, never realizing that Earth was counting, weighing, planning. The 1,000 warships that appeared in orbit were not the product of a sudden leap. They were the result of hundreds of years of quiet labor, of resources gathered from asteroid belts, in dead systems, from mining outposts no one claimed, from derelict ships stripped and rebuilt in secret. The designs were unique. No exposed weapon turrets, no standard engine signatures. Each ship built to hide its true capabilities until the moment they were used. Even the arrangement of the fleet in orbit was a signal, though few in the galaxy recognized it, a formation once used by ancient human navies before Earth had ever left its own star system. A reminder that humanity's history was long, and its strategies older than most of the empires watching them. Inside one of those warships, the human high command gathered, their meeting room stark and simple, walls lined with star maps. A vast projection in the center showing the Hall of Stars. The officers spoke in low, calm voices, discussing the Council's reaction, the capture of the scout fleet, the timing of their first and only speech. They were not surprised by the fear. In the Council's eyes, they had counted on it. One admiral, a gray-haired veteran who had commanded in secret wars no one in the galaxy knew about, leaned forward. "They believe our silence was weakness," he said. "We will show them it was strength." Another officer, younger but with eyes sharp as cold steel, added, "They are already afraid, but fear will not make them follow us. They must understand why we are here." Her words hung in the air, heavier than the hum of the ship's engines. Outside, in the black void, the 1,000 ships waited like a single organism, every crew drilled to perfection, every system checked and rechecked. If the order came, they could move as one, faster and deadlier than any fleet the galaxy had seen. The human plan had never been to conquer the Council through war, not immediately. At least the first step was control, and control could be taken without a single shot if done correctly. But there was another reason for their long absence, one the Council had not yet guessed, far beyond the edge of mapped space. Humans had found something old and terrible, a force that had devoured whole civilizations long before the Council was formed. Humanity had been preparing for that enemy, building not just for their own survival, but for the survival of every world in the galaxy. that truth would not be spoken yet. It was too soon. First, the galaxy had to see that humans were not petitioners asking for a seat. They were leaders taking one. As the warships hung in orbit, cloaked in the reflection of Earth's blue oceans and white clouds, the galaxy still argued over what humans wanted. They did not understand that the answer was already written, in hidden archives, in star maps marked with red, in the eyes of every human commander who had trained for this day since birth. When the time came to reveal the truth, the galaxy would finally understand why Earth had missed every meeting, and why, when they returned with enough power to change the balance of the stars forever. The 1,000 warships around Earth hung in perfect silence, their black hulls glinting faintly in the sunlight. No broadcasts, no chatter, no visible movement. Just an unbroken wall of power that made even the bravest admirals in the galaxy uneasy. In the Hall of Stars, the Council waited, their anger thinning into a sharp, cold tension. They had demanded an explanation. And finally, they were going to get one, without warning. Every screen in the chamber flickered to life, the Council's own systems overridden in a way no one had thought possible. The crystal dome above dimmed until the only light came from the image now filling the hall. A human stood there, tall and still, wearing a plain black uniform without any rank markings. The background showed the command bridge of one of the massive warships, its crew working in perfect, silent coordination. His voice was deep and steady, carrying across the chamber with a strange calm. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," he began. "For centuries, you have met without us." His gaze swept slowly from one delegation to another, as if looking each one in the eye. "You assumed we were weak, primitive, disinterested, or gone. You were wrong." Murmurs rose, some angry, some afraid. The human didn't pause. "We did not come to ask for a seat at your table. We came to take the seat that has always been ours." His tone never rose, but the quiet certainty in it carried more weight than any shouted demand. One council member from the Kithri League broke in, his voice sharp. "You arrive with warships. You seize our fleets. You speak of taking." But the human's eyes shifted to him, and the Kithri stopped mid-sentence, as if he'd felt the weight of an entire fleet behind that single glance. "We speak only once," the human continued. "You will listen." Every translator in the chamber fell silent, not from any order, but because no one dared to interrupt. "Again, our absence was not neglect," he said. "It was preparation. We have watched you, studied you, learned from you, while you debated, we built while you traded. We explored while you fought among yourselves. We prepared for the war you cannot see coming." The words echoed. The council chamber seemed suddenly smaller, the air heavier. The representative from the Valtorian Dominion, whose empire had fought human fleets centuries ago, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "What war?" he asked, but the human gave no answer. Instead, he said, "The galaxy is vast, and beyond the edge of your maps, there are things that do not care for your politics or your treaties. We have seen them, we have fought them, and we have learned one truth: when they come, no empire will stand alone." The council erupted again, this time in disbelief, half the delegates muttering that this was a scare tactic, others exchanging uneasy looks. The Drekan clan delegate, old and scarred, said nothing, his claws curling slowly against the table. He had fought humans before, and he had this sinking feeling they were telling the truth. The human ignored the noise. "We will not debate this. We will not explain further. When the time comes, you will either stand with us or you will fall." The cold simplicity of it made the room fall silent again. And then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "Your scout fleet will be returned to you in full health, no harm done." A pause. "Consider this a courtesy, one you will not receive twice." The image cut out. The crystal dome brightened. Again, the lights of the chamber returned to normal. But nothing about the mood in the Hall of Stars was normal. The representatives sat in uneasy stillness, trying to decide whether what they had just witnessed was a threat, a warning, or something worse. Across the galaxy, The transmission played on every major channel. Leaders in every empire held emergency meetings. Admirals pored over the image of the human officer. Analysts broke down his words frame by frame, searching for hidden meaning. But there was no need for hidden meaning. The message had been clear enough. In the great military academies of the core worlds, instructors began quietly altering training protocols. Not because of orders, but because they felt the truth in the human's voice. In pirate dens on the lawless edges of the spiral arms, smugglers whispered to one another that they'd never take a contract against a human convoy again. In mining colonies far from any council presence, workers stood still for a long time, staring at the grainy replays of the warships hanging over Earth in the Hall of Stars. The first real debate began. Not whether Earth should have a seat, but whether the Council could risk refusing them one. Some argued that yielding to human demands would set a dangerous precedent. Others said it was already too late. The humans had the power to take whatever they wanted. The Drekan delegate finally spoke, his voice quiet but heavy. You have not fought them. You do not understand. When humans say they will do something, they do it. If they tell you there is a war coming, then it is already on its way. His words silenced even the most defiant voices. Hours later, as the council session ended, the human fleet still hung in orbit over Earth, unmoving, unblinking, not even acknowledging the debate. It was as if the 1,000 ships knew the decision had already been made, as if they were waiting for the galaxy to realize it. And in the dark between the stars, far beyond the last mapped systems, something ancient stirred, sensing the shift. In power, the first faint movement in a chain of events that would drag every world, every empire, into a conflict they were not ready to fight. But Earth was ready. Earth had been ready for a very long time. The 1,000 human warships remained locked in their perfect orbit, black shadows against the curve of the Earth. They neither moved nor broadcast a signal. And yet their presence felt louder than any declaration of war the Council might have. Returned to its chamber after the human speech, but the galaxy itself could not settle. Every major power was running numbers, calculating fleet strengths, drawing up scenarios, and in each simulation one fact became clear: no one could match that fleet. Not now, not soon. For some that was unacceptable. In a heavily shielded chamber aboard the Kithri flagship, a group of senior council members met in secret. No recorders, no official scribes, only whispers. Their eyes hard and distrustful. They've humiliated us, the Kithri chancellor hissed, his pale skin shifting darker with anger. They seize our ships, they dictate terms. They claim there's some unseen war, and we're meant to simply hand them a seat. Others nodded. The sting of being outmaneuvered in their own hall was unbearable. The Volturian First Admiral leaned forward, his golden armor clinking softly. Fear is a powerful weapon. They've wielded it well, but fear can be tested. If their fleet is truly as strong as they claim, let's see how it handles. Pressure. The word hung in the air like a blade. Within hours, the plan took shape, a routine inspection. A fleet of mixed ships from several species would approach the humans' orbital line under the guise of diplomatic verification. Their orders were simple: push the humans, provoke a response, and gather every scrap of data about their weapons and defenses. The so-called inspection fleet departed in silence. A dozen heavy cruisers and fast frigates, each carrying elite crews, their captains sworn to secrecy. Across the galaxy, the operation was whispered about, but never officially acknowledged. The public only knew that a group of council vessels had been sent toward Sol. Approaching the human fleet was unlike any mission they had undertaken before. Long before they reached Earth's system, the inspection ship's sensors picked up faint distortions, not weapons fire, not shields, something stranger, a low level interference that made targeting systems flicker and navigation readings drift. Still, they pressed forward, their comms officers sending the official message. Council inspection fleet requesting passage. No reply came. The black wall of human warships grew larger on their view screens. Each vessel perfectly aligned, their hulls giving back no readable data, no heat signatures, no engine profiles, as if the ships were simply painted into the void. The Kuthari captain in command of the mission ordered a closer pass, his voice tight with the strain of maintaining authority in the face of such silence. "They're bluffing," he muttered to his crew. "No one builds a fleet like this without showing it off." They closed the gap. The human ships did not move. The inspection fleet began running deep scans, their sensor arrays burning hot with effort, and then the first signal appeared. It wasn't a weapon lock, it wasn't a broadcast, it was a soft tone. Like a single bell struck in a deep cavern, every ship in the inspection fleet heard it at the same moment, and then their systems went dark. No explosions, no damage, no alarms, just darkness. The stars still shone outside their windows. The human fleet still floated ahead. But inside the ships, consoles went black, engines powered down, life support shifted to emergency reserves. Every crew member's implant fell silent. Through the bridge windows of the dead cruisers, the crews saw movement. One by one, a handful of human ships broke formation and drifted forward, their motion unervingly smooth. They passed among the council vessels like sharks swimming through a school of frozen fish, no weapons raised, no threats spoken. The crews watched in powerless silence as small craft detached from the human warships, sliding close to their hulls, scanning them with devices that emitted no visible light. After a few minutes, the craft returned to their mother ships. The formation closed again, and the Black Fleet resumed its perfect stillness. Then, without warning, every system aboard the inspection fleet came back online. The ship's lights flared, engines roared, systems blinked with a single incoming message. It was 2 words, delivered in a calm human voice: "Go home." The inspection fleet did not need to be told twice. Their captains turned their ships and retreated at full burn. None of them dared to re-enter human sensor range. When they arrived back in council space, they carried no sensor data, no proof of what had happened, only the memory of the silence. Back in the Hall of Stars, the reaction was chaos. The inspection fleet's report was short, emotionless, and terrifying in its simplicity. "They let us live," one captain had said, and that was their answer, for the first time. Even the most defiant voices in the council began to understand the scale of what they were facing. These were not ships meant for intimidation alone. They were precise, disciplined, and capable of disabling an entire task force without firing a shot. Still, there were those who refused to accept it. "They are playing mind games," the Kuthari chancellor insisted, but his voice lacked the confidence it had before. In private, the Drekan delegate spoke quietly to his aides. This was their way of saying, "We could have killed you, but we didn't." His eyes narrowed. In war, that's not mercy. That's a warning, and far above, still in perfect orbit, the 1,000 human warships did nothing at all. Yet somehow their stillness felt like the most deliberate move of all. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but Earth's silence was not the absence of action. It was the calm before something far greater. The 1,000 human warships still hung in Earth's orbit, black and unmoving, their very stillness pressing down on the galaxy like a hand on the throat. Weeks had passed since the inspection fleet had limped home in silence, stripped of both dignity and information. And yet no one in the council could shake the memory of that calm human voice telling them to go home. For all their arguments and suspicions, no one could deny one truth: the humans were in complete control. Not just militarily, but psychologically. Every empire was thinking about them. Every admiral was recalculating strategies. Every merchant was reconsidering routes. The council finally sent an official summons for a full diplomatic meeting. This time with one purpose only: to hear Earth's intentions. The human fleet acknowledged the invitation with a single 2-word reply: "We accept." On the day of the meeting, the Hall of Stars was unusually quiet. The crystal dome glimmered faintly. The delegates shifted in their seats, some pretending calm, others showing open tension. the great doors opened, and a single human entered. He wore the same black uniform as the man from the earlier broadcast, but this one was different, younger, with sharp eyes that seemed to take in the entire room in one glance. His stride was measured, unhurried, as though he was the one who owned this chamber and not the hundreds of alien governments represented within it. He stopped before the central podium, looked up at the flags and symbols of the Council's member worlds, and then spoke in a voice that was clear, controlled, and without ornament. "You ask why we have come now after so long," he said. "You think we are here to intimidate you, to take your territories, to claim your wealth." A pause. "You are wrong." That drew murmurs, sharp and skeptical, but no one dared interrupt. "We stayed away," the human continued, "because you were not ready. Your galaxy is fractured, divided by pride and greed. You speak of peace but prepare for war against each other. And while you argued over who should control the trade lanes and the mining worlds, you forgot to look beyond your borders." The representative from the Kithri League leaned forward, his voice laced with contempt. "And what do you think is beyond our borders? Empty space?" The human's gaze met his without blinking. "Predators," he said simply. "Things older than your empires. Things that have ended civilizations before your species learned to stand. They are coming again." The hall went still. "We have seen their signs," the human went on. "Ships gone without trace, colonies found empty, dead worlds stripped clean of life. They leave nothing behind but silence. We fought them once, long ago. When they reached the edges of our star charts, they withdrew, but they will return." Drekan Delegate's claws tapped the table slowly, his voice deep. "You say this, but you bring no proof. Why should we believe you?" The human stepped aside, and the air above the podium shimmered. A projection appeared, grainy recordings of vast nightmarish shapes moving through the void, their size dwarfing even the largest known warships, their movements too fast for something so massive, their hulls shifting like living metal. A still image froze on the largest of them, its silhouette jagged, its eyes burning with cold light. "This is one of their scouts," the human said. "We destroyed it at great cost." "And it was only a scout," the murmurs returned. But now they were heavier, darker. The image had weight. The human didn't give them time to dismiss it. "We have been preparing for centuries. Every resource we gathered, every ship we built was for this war, not for conquering you." His voice hardened. "But we cannot win it alone, and neither can you." The Valtorian First Admiral rose, his golden armor reflecting the dome's light. "If what you say is true, then why not tell us sooner?" The human's expression did not change. "Because before now, you would not have listened. You would have tried to take what we had built for yourselves. You would have wasted it in your border wars." A ripple of uneasy silence swept the chamber. "Because everyone knew he was right. This is the choice," the human said. His words measured, final. "Unite under our strategy, fight as one, or wait until they arrive and fall one by one. Your fleets, your worlds, your species, erased." From the stars, for a long moment, no one spoke. The Council was not used to ultimatums, not from an outsider, and certainly not from a world they had once considered irrelevant. Then, unexpectedly, the Drekan delegate spoke. "What is your strategy?" The human gave the faintest trace of a smile, but it wasn't warm. "It begins with command," he said. "We will take leadership of the combined fleets. Our war doctrine will be followed without question. Our intelligence will be shared. Only as needed, you will obey, or you will be left behind." That caused an uproar, voices overlapping in outrage. But beneath the noise was the unshakable fact that no one here could stop the humans from taking exactly what they demanded. The human waited for the noise to fade, then added, "You have until the next cycle to decide. After that, we move forward with or without you." And with that, he turned and walked out, not once looking back, the great doors closing behind him with a sound that seemed to echo far longer than it should have. In the Hall of Stars, the council members exchanged looks. Some angry, some thoughtful, but every one of them knew the truth. The humans had not come to request permission. They had come to give the galaxy a chance to survive, and a warning of what would happen if it refused. High above Earth, the 1,000 black warships remained in place, watching, waiting, knowing that the decision had already been made. Because in the cold mathematics of survival, pride was just another luxury the galaxy could no longer afford. The Hall of Stars had never been so divided. Even after the bloodiest wars in the Council's history, arguments filled the great chamber. Voices rose and fell. Alliances shifted and broke in the space of a few minutes. Some empires demanded they resist the humans. Others whispered that refusing them would mean certain death. But under the noise, one truth pressed down on every representative. The humans had given them a choice, and the clock was ticking in the private chambers of the most powerful worlds. The debates were no calmer. Military leaders pored over maps, trying to imagine what a united fleet under human command would look like. Trade ministers calculated the impact of putting their shipping lanes in human hands. Scientists wondered how much the humans truly knew about the threat beyond the galaxy. But no one could ignore the image the humans had shown, that jagged, shifting scout ship with its cold, burning eyes. The smaller, weaker worlds made their decision first. They had no fleet strong enough to stand alone, no armies large enough to resist. To them, the choice was simple: survival was better than pride. Messages of agreement were sent quietly to the human fleet in Earth's orbit. Larger empires hesitated. They weighed the humiliation of submitting to human command against the risk of destruction. But even the most arrogant rulers could not shake the memory of how easily the humans had disabled the inspection fleet. If that was what they could do to Council warships, what could they do to the predators they spoke of? When the next cycle began, the Council's vote was held. The chamber was tense. The flags of 100 worlds hung heavy above the delegates. One by one, representatives stood and spoke their decision. When the final count came, the result was clear. The majority had chosen to unite under human strategy. The great doors of the hall opened, and once again, a single human entered. This time it was the same officer who had delivered the first broadcast, his face as unreadable as before. He walked to the center, listening to the quiet hum of the translators relaying the vote across the galaxy. "The decision is made," the council leader said, his voice steady but lacking its usual authority. "You have your command." The human inclined his head, not as a gesture of gratitude, but acknowledgement. "Then we begin," he said. Outside, in the black above Earth, the 1,000 warships began to move. Not randomly, but with the precision of a single mind. Their formations shifting into something new. Something no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Entire battle groups aligning by purpose, not by type. Dreadnoughts flanking carriers, escort frigates shielding command ships. All of them linked in ways alien to standard doctrine. Within days, human officers began arriving in council fleets, their black uniforms a stark contrast to the colors and insignias of alien navies. They took command without bluster, issuing orders in calm voices, and to the surprise of many, those orders worked. Pirate activity dropped to almost nothing. Trade lanes were secured. Even old border disputes between member states were quietly frozen as everyone's focus shifted to the humans' larger plan. But it was not just military orders the humans gave. They began sharing technology, not all of it, never all of it, but enough to make alien ships faster, stealthier, harder to track. Their engineers worked alongside species who had once dismissed humanity as primitive, and in the process, they changed the way the galaxy built its war machines. Still, the Council noticed something strange. The humans never spoke again of the predators they had shown. No further images, no warnings, no details. When asked, they simply said, "You will know when it's time," and left it at that. Rumors spread like fire. Some claimed the humans had already engaged these predators in distant battles. Others said they had captured one alive. A few whispered that the humans had made a bargain with them. But no one could prove anything. and the humans did not seem concerned with silencing the rumors. Months passed. The galaxy's fleets, now moving as one under human coordination, drilled together, trained for scenarios most species had never considered: long-range formations, warp shadow maneuvers, multi-front planetary defenses, the kind of war planning meant for enemies who could strike anywhere, anytime, and then, without warning, the humans gave the order. The 1,000 warships around Earth broke orbit, engines flaring to life in perfect synchronization. They did not scatter, they did not split into patrols. They moved as a single vast wall into deep space, beyond Council borders. Their departure broadcast across every channel, without commentary, without music, without speeches. On every world, beings stopped to watch the silent procession of ships disappear into the dark, in the Hall of Stars. The Council sat in uneasy silence, knowing that whatever came next was beyond their control. In the command chamber of the lead human dreadnought, the officer from the first broadcast stood at the viewing pane, the stars stretching ahead. His second-in-command stepped up beside him. "They voted faster than we expected," she said, her voice low. He didn't look at her when he replied. "Fear moves quicker than pride." Far behind them, the galaxy whispered. Far ahead, something vast and ancient stirred, and in that space between, the humans moved. The Council had thought they had given Earth a seat at their table. But in truth, Earth had taken the table, the room, and the entire game with it. Now, for the first time in its long history, the galaxy's fate lay not in the Hall of Stars, but in the hands of the species that had once been its quietest member. And somewhere, in the endless dark, the predators turned their gaze toward the light of approaching human warships. The next chapter of the galaxy's history already unfolding in silence.